Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I'm feeling a little verklempt. Feeling a little, I don't know, sensitive? I don't know what it is. I feel a little teary. Being here, back here, I'm really happy to be here and see all of you again. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I guess I'm grateful, and how perfect is that for the message today, that it's a month of gratitude. And the talk today I'd like to speak of is a grateful practice. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "Cultivate the habit of being grateful for every good thing that comes to you, and to give thanks continuously. And because all things have contributed to your advancement, you should include all things in your gratitude. Have gratitude for participating in the mystery of life." And there are numerous ways to be mindful, to cultivate gratitude. One way is to acknowledge the appreciation when there are things that are going well. But even more helpful is to notice that those things that are not going well and find gratitude for those. For example, I might have financial challenges, but I have a fine mind and I have resources that I will be able to work and change my behaviors as needed to right this situation. Or maybe I have an illness, but I also have divine wisdom. And I have other support, and I have mental resources that can get me through the challenge. Another practice is to notice. To notice things to be grateful for throughout a regular day. And I know that it's hard to be grateful when I'm stuck in traffic, but I do have a vehicle. And that there are driving rules that actually some people abide by. I'm grateful for that. Another practice is to focus on the wonderment of nature and the human capacity for learning and for creating. Go watch children play. Go to an art class. Go for a walk in the woods and marvel at the ecosystem that surrounds us. Of course, it's very easy to see the lack of humanity in the news, but that is when wonderment is overlooked. Mindfulness would also include appreciation for the community that I have, because I can always call someone when I'm feeling downhearted or just having a bad day. And the intention to see life clearly, the ups and the downs. There's a balance even when I think there is an uneven doing of junk to me. And when I do this, I get to see the great reality of my life. I hope for the best and I prepare for the worst. And if the worst never comes, I'm grateful. And if it does come, I'm grateful for having prepared. Now, the word gratitude and grace share a common origin. The Latin word gratus means pleasing or thankful. And when in deep state of gratitude, often there's a spontaneous feeling that comes of the presence of grace. And grace is receiving the capacity to experience that which is beyond my mind and my body. Call it God, call it emptiness, call it Brahman, call it the ground of the absolute. When Henry Thoreau went into retreat at Walden Pond, he and his friend Ralph Emerson had been studying Hindu, Buddhist, and Taoist texts. And he wrote, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived." He understood that conscious life was a gift for which the highest form of gratitude was to know it in all the depths. And this reminds me of a wonderful ancient Sufi story about the strife of the journey. It's a story of the spinner and the tent. Is anyone familiar with that story? Good. It's Fatima's journey through life. Once in a city way in the far west, there lived a girl, and her name was Fatima. And she was the daughter of a very prosperous spinner. And one day her father said to her, "Come, daughter, we're going to go on a journey, because I have business on the islands in the Middle Sea. Perhaps you may find some handsome youth in a good situation for whom you could take as a husband or wife." And they set off, and they traveled from island to island, the father doing his trading while Fatima dreamt of the husband who might soon be hers. One day, however, they were on their way to Crete when a storm blew up and the ship was wrecked, and Fatima, only half conscious, was cast upon the seashore near Alexandria. And her father was dead, and she was utterly destitute. She could only remember dimly her life until then, for her experience of the shipwreck and her exposure in the sea had utterly exhausted her. And while she was wandering on the sands, a family of cloth makers found her. And although they were poor, they took her into their humble home, and they taught her their craft. And thus it was that she made a second life for herself, and within a year or two she was happy, and she reconciled her lot. But one day, when she was on the seashore, for some reason, a band of slave traders landed and carried her away with them, along with some other captives. Although she was bitterly lamented in her lot, Fatima found no sympathy from the slavers, who took her to Istanbul and sold her as a slave. And her world had collapsed a second time. And now it chanced that there were a few buyers at the market, and one of them was a man who was looking for slaves to work in his wood yard, where he made masts for ships. And when he saw the dejection of this unfortunate Fatima, he decided to buy her, thinking that in this way, at least, he might be able to give her a slightly better life than the one she had, and if she had been bought by someone else. So he took Fatima home, intending to make her a serving maid for his wife. But when he arrived home, he found that he had lost all of his money in a cargo which had been captured by pirates. He could not afford the workers, so he, Fatima, and his wife were left alone to work at heavy labor in making masts. And Fatima, grateful to her employer for rescuing her, worked so hard and so well that he gave her her freedom, and she became his trusted helper. And thus it was that she became comparatively happy in her third career. And one day he said to her, "Fatima, I want you to go off with a cargo of ship's masts to Java, and please be my agent, and be sure that you will turn a profit." Oh, so she set off, but when the ship was off the coast of China, a typhoon wrecked it. And Fatima found herself again cast upon the seashore of a strange land. And once again she wept bitterly, for she felt that nothing in her life was working in accordance with expectation. And whenever things seemed to be going well, something came and destroyed all of her hopes. "Why is it," she cried out for the third time, "that whenever I try to do something, it comes to grief? Why should so many unfortunate things happen to me?" But there was no answer. So she picked herself up from the sand, and she started to walk inland. And now it so happened that nobody in China had heard of Fatima or knew anything about her troubles. But there was a legend that a certain stranger, a woman, would one day arrive there, and that she would be able to make a tent for the emperor. And since there was as yet nobody in China who could make tents, everyone looked upon the fulfillment of this prediction with the liveliest of anticipation. In order to make sure that this stranger, when she arrived, would not be missed, successive emperors of China had followed the custom of sending heralds once a year to all the towns and villages of the land, asking for any foreign woman to be produced at court. When Fatima stumbled into a town by the Chinese seashore, it was one such occasion. The people spoke to her through an interpreter and explained that she would have to go see the emperor. And the emperor said, "Lady, can you make a tent?" I think so, said Fatima. She asked for rope, but there was none to be had. So, remembering her time as a spinner, she collected flax and made rope. Then she asked for the stout cloth, but the Chinese had none of the kind, which she needed. So, drawing upon her experience with the weavers of Alexandria, she made some stout tent cloth. Then she found that she needed tent poles, but there were none in China. So Fatima, remembering how she had been trained by the wood fashioner in Istanbul, cunningly made stout poles. When these were ready, she racked her brains for the memory of all the tents she'd ever seen in all of her travels, and lo, a tent was made. And when this wonder was revealed to the Emperor of China, he offered Fatima the fulfillment of any wish she cared to name. She chose to settle in China, where she married a handsome prince, and where she remained in happiness, surrounded by her children until the end of her days. And so it was through these adventures that Fatima realized that what had appeared to be an unpleasant experience at the time turned out to be an essential part of the making of her ultimate happiness. This grace of conscious life, of having a mind that can know the moment is like this moment, is the root of all wonder, from which gratitude flows. The wonder, the mystery, is that we, like everyone else, are given this short, precious time of conscious embodiment that we can directly know life. Even if I find life to be cruel or kind, sorrowful or joyous, bland or stimulating, indifferent or filled with love, I get the privilege of knowing it firsthand. Gratitude for the grace of consciousness embodiment evolves in the practice of selfless gratitude, in which your concerns slowly but surely shift from being mostly about yourself and those close to you to being about all living beings. As this occurs, I need less and less in the way of good fortune. It becomes enough that there are those who are happy, who are receiving love, who are safe, and who have a promising future. My sense of well-being is no longer contingent on external circumstances. I am able to rejoice that amidst all life suffering, there exists joy. Pain and joy are part of a mysterious whole. And when this selfless gratitude starts to blossom, one's mind becomes more spacious, quieter, and the heart receives its first taste of the long-sought release from fear and wanting. This is grace. This is spiritual awakening. And spiritual awakening usually leads us naturally to action. Once one is awakened, then no one can sit idly by and watch the world go up in flames or let one's inner self run amok. It would be antithetical to the process. The more that is revealed, the more is required. And this tenet rings true in every artistic endeavor, every dark night of the soul, every movement that has brought peace. And once light is opened into a room that has been shuttered for years, it will reveal the beauty of its contents, and it will reveal the layers of dust as well. The room may be an inner room of discontent, or the outer room of chaotic community, or our family structure, or greedy government, or corporate schemes. We may be the only observers who see the need for light. To sit in the discomfort of the dark night of the soul is to sit in the wonder of revelations that are yet to be unfolded. The soul's longing for oneness, integration, and alignment brings forth all that we need to know. to see, to feel, and to do. We may have been groping around in the dark, but finally we see a sliver of light emitted into this dusty room. The light doesn't remove the dust. It simply shows what is present and what is needed. And removing the dust takes action. Action is required when we begin to see the light. Some may need to shade their eyes because the light is just too bright, and they have to wait for the adjustment to this light. Others will drink in the vitamins provided by the light, and still others may vacillate between being grateful and annoyed. The required action brings us deeper into alignment with self and the divine beloved. We are all on the spiritual continuum, and we're at different places, proceeding at different paces. And accepting where one is on the continuum releases the need for comparison. And so, I ask you these questions about your gratitude and your journey into gratitude. Do you have a practice that engages and widens your relationship to God and to others? Do you reflect on intention, appreciation, focusing, noticing, and acknowledgement? Do you embrace life's difficulties as much as life's triumphs? Are you grateful for your health and your physical self? Do you take care of yourself as best as you can? Or do you put it off for another day, another time? Can you bring others along with you on the journey by showing them the way? When have you learned to make cloth or rope in your life? And have you been able to use the rope to build the next phase of your journey? And are you able to see that Great Spirit is with you at all times, supporting and sustaining you? If not, and why not? And if so, how do you realize your gratitude to Great Spirit? Now, I mention these questions to you because they may be part of your daily practice. And if they are, I encourage you to get closer to that practice and to know that God lives in each and every one of us. Right now, right here. And we are called, you and I are called to do the work of higher power in all the areas of our lives. We magnify the spiritual culture that we enjoy through being of greater service in the world. We are loved beyond our knowing and are given the abilities beyond our understanding. We are given the opportunity to consciously taste life, to know life for what it is, and to make it what we are able to make it. A conscious life is a gift of grace, despite great difficulty that may arise. Your practice is to call into light all that you have been given and all that you can give. And in so doing, we appreciate and we beautify our inner selves and outer world, and that is a grateful practice. And so it is. Thank you. God bless. God bless. God bless.